A few little squares down here for those people who are going to watch the replay. We got kind of this nothingness to continue down here. A little hard to see. There's a little bit of the shoreline. You can't even see it. I don't know if there's any point to this. It's just all shadows. There's some shoreline, and you can just barely see the water. Let's see if I can brighten this up a little bit. Maybe that'll help. We're drawing shadows. That's what it comes down to. Out of the trees. And here's the couple we did yesterday. So this little grassy bit is going to sort of disappear. And then essentially have a couple more of these little areas to go. Throw on a few reflections. And then it's up to just this little section of the mountain left. Let's get into it. Let's see how it goes. Whoops. Whoops, a daisy. Okay. Okay, so I just got my Reg's old 2B pencil here. And I'm just gonna do kind of what I did yesterday. Start working in. Oops, I'm supposed to finish off a little grass right there. I'll kind of do this. We're gonna have the little grass section end about right there. This line I put in yesterday is where our shoreline and water meet. So this is pretty easy work. I'm just gonna go to the end here. Got a couple little bits of eraser that got stuck in there, but no real concerns. So similar to yesterday, we'll just sort of work in this, our primary shading a little bit, and then erase a little bit some of our shadows in, but over here, looking at my reference image, there's not a whole lot in the water reflecting. So this should be some pretty simple work today. Hello, everybody. My drawing sucks. Harsh. That's some harsh words. So we're just gonna put this in here, and we'll blend it smoothly. Might need to go a little darker here. That's a good drawing. Don't listen to the haters. Yeah, I mean, that's the tough part of these lives, is some people just pop on and, I don't know. You know, they got to get through the day some way. Here's the full drawing for people that are interested. But thank you, Everett, for the kind words. So this little section is just the water down here of the, just the beginning of the lake. This is a really popular spot at Mount Rainier, and a lot of photos you'll see has the reflection of the mountain and the lake. But I feel like with drawings, artsy effort. Let me see 1 second here. Okay, back at it. Just trying to match this little section over here, value-wise. You know, you want to be really careful and just sort of go incrementally, get or darker and darker. It's easier to get darker than it is to make it lighter again, you know, especially when you want, I at least want to start out with a sort of smooth, consistent look. Once you go too dark and you got to erase the whole thing, that's when you can get into some trouble. So up here, a lot of this, for people, I showed this at the beginning, but, so this is the reference image. We're just working on these little 3 squares right here. It's a little hard to see with the reflection, but there's not, it's all shadows. So we're gonna see a little bit of where the lake transitions to the shoreline and this grass sort of disappears. That's why I left this little strip right there. But that's why I'm just doing, I try to do 1 square a day, and I'm gonna do all 3 of these because it's a pretty light day in terms of putting in details. And so there's a 4B pencil here. There's a little fog where it's a little blurry where the shore and water meet. So we'll blur that up in a second. I like to work on a large sheet of paper like this because I'll sign it down here, and then you can cut the mat to fit it accordingly, and that way I don't got to sign it over the drawing. And also, sometimes I'll make little notes on the outside of the paper. Like this drawing I've been working on for like 16 months. Part of that is because I haven't been consistent until about the last month or so, but if I did like a smooth blend down, I might note my pencil that I was using on the side of the paper. And of course, when it gets framed and matted, we can trim this white part off as whatever is kind of best for the framing. But down here, it's just all shadows. Now there's a little bit of tree in here we'll work in. So with the bottom of this tree here, I'm just sort of varying the pressure up a little bit so we can get a little bit of variation in the value, just to have those branches that are really subtle in there. And same right here, we'll just kind of lighten it up a little bit. Still like to keep my pencil going horizontally, just because, you know, you can see a little bit of those marks, which I don't mind because, you know, little variations in the value. We're seeing all these little bits of trees kind of hiding in the shadows. And again, even in those shadowy areas of these trees, the branches are going to be going left to right. So I still don't want to go vertical. Okay, let's get a little grass in here. So this is just a little strip of the grass that disappears here. So this is my HB pencil. Just putting here, I'm going to go vertical because this is grass, but super tiny details. I think I said this. This is an HB pencil. This is 2B. Still want a little bit of variation. And like I did over here, I mentioned this yesterday, you know, as grass sticks up, right, the top is going to catch more light and have more highlight, whereas the bottom of the grass, where all those blades come together and the roots are and all that, that's where there's going to be a little bit more shadow. I don't want to go too heavy though, because this is pretty small, this little area right here. But as mentioned, then this just sort of fades into the shore. That's looking pretty good. And then here, well, maybe we'll go with this still. Getting pretty small down here. Just a little hint of that showing. And like yesterday, this is the reflection of it here. And where the shore and the water come together, as often is the case, that's where a lot of the, there's normally, you know, some mud and dirt, and it's a little darker right there. So we'll just make this a little dark. This is with my 2B pencil again. Thanks, Jimmy. Here's the full drawing so far. Just wrapping up this bottom part where there's some water. And then I just got this little section right up here. Okay, what was I doing? Just going with this. This is my 2B here. Just kind of again where that water and shoreline meet. Just kind of blurring it up a little bit. Again, there's not a lot of light down here. Keeping things a little blurry, a little random. What's your next project after this one? I have a couple things working. I might work on another little Mount Rainier painting thing. And there's another big drawing that's been jammed under a piece of cardboard for like a full year and hasn't been touched, that I might work on. But I think I might lean towards the painting thing, because I might need a little break from the intense drawing. But we'll see. Okay, so that seems pretty good with the grass sort of fading away. There's not a whole lot of reflection happening over here, but I might put in a little bit just to match the rest. Because again, like, so the water's going to reflect a little bit of that, maybe a little bit of that. But looking at my reference drawing, you don't see quite a bit of it. You don't see much of it, but just to keep a little something going on. This is continuing back. I roughed up the, here I'll show this because I haven't done this in a couple days. So I got this eraser, I rough it up on a little bit of sandpaper. I just want to work where these trees sort of fade away. With it a little bit roughed up, it kind of erases irregularly. So you can just add some super subtle texture back in from these trees. We'll do the same over here. But that way, it erases the graphite irregularly, so you can get some nice subtle texture. Similar to what I did with the pencil back when I drew in there, those little areas. This tree's reflecting down. I'm just gonna try to, just some really super subtle variations, just so that it's not just kind of a smooth little area right here. And we'll kind of blend it out and fix it up in a second, but just keeping the randomness going. It's not perfectly smooth, because again, the reflections and everything, but there's not a lot of light hitting down here. Okay, let's pop out and see. Amazing town. Thanks for checking out the drawing. It's the full thing. This is a little section I just did. That's pretty quick. But again, looking at the reference, this is a little section I was drawing. There's not a whole lot going on there besides the little transition between the shoreline and the water. Oops, let's see what we got here. Here we go. This is the reflection of that grass right there. Just being super subtle, just to match that up a bit more. This little eraser, people who watch my videos, I always do little tricks with the eraser. So the edge is kind of roughed up. And again, these trees, you know, I want irregular marks to get the reflection of these trees in. So I just use that roughed up edge. And we kind of finesse it a little bit. There's not a lot of detail down here. Can you please tell me, sir, how do you compose between the image, reference, and how to approach the drawing? I think maybe. I do not know how to draw or paint, but I'd love to see how talented people do it. Let me see. How do you compose? So, I don't know if you saw, I do have, this is all based off a photo I took over here, right? But for me, all these trees, let me get over here. All these trees, I'm not trying to get exactly. I'm just using it more for inspiration on my trees and mimicking that texture. So once I developed how I wanted to build the texture, that made it a lot easier. But then on the mountain up here, that's where I'm trying to get everything exact. But the way I approach it is, you can see my little grid of lines on here. You can see the little lines. And that's how I get things exact and match the photo. And then it's really just a practice of patience, you know, not rushing, trying to get everything exactly how I want it before I move on. That's another reason why I like to work in these little squares. Besides matching the scale, it makes me focus down into one small area without rushing. And makes like an achievable goal each day. once I'm done with my regular job and doing stuff around the house. So that's how I approach it. Hopefully that helped. Again, just adding some randomness into this water here, where there's not much light, just a little bit of reflection, but not much because you can't see much. Pretty shadowy. Okay, I'm gonna pop out one more time. I think that might be good for the water. Just make sure everything's in line, nothing stands out. So over here, again, this photo is taken at sunrise. You can see more of the sunlight is hitting over here where we can see those reflections. So like here's shadow, here and here, right? And as we get over here, the lake gets thinner and there's more trees over here. So this section of the lake gets less light, so there are less visible shadows to us, if that makes sense. But all that being said, tomorrow, finally, after whatever it is, 22 days, we'll be up on the mountain. Well, hold on now, I see a little, do want to tidy up one thing quick. A little too much grass hanging on here. Thank you, sir. That was a kind explanation. Absolutely worth the tip on the trees. I was thinking it was all exactly. How many times have you been drawing? Let's see. So I did start this not last April, but the one before. But I've been spending a lot of time on the YouTube channel videos. So until recently, when I started this going live every day thing, I wasn't working on it consistently. So I hadn't really worked on it in probably like 3 or 4 months. So it's been like 16 months, but again, a large chunk of that, I was never working on it. So I would say there's probably a few hundred hours of work into it. But, you know, a lot of it is just sort of getting into the rhythm on the trees. And if anybody wants to see, I've done a ton of lives on these trees, if you want to see the process, but a more succinct tutorial is how to draw a forest, if you want to check out that. Or if you want to draw leafy trees, check out, I have another tutorial just called How to Draw Trees. But really both are the same technique, just different sort of shaping of your lines. But yeah, all right, tomorrow we'll be up on the mountain. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.